it's Melissa with Sew Yours. In today's video, we are making the Sweetheart Shoulder Bag. This is my latest pattern available for purchase on my website at sewyours.com. This pattern is releasing on February 14th of 2022, and here is a different version of the bag. I have done a separate introductory video on all of the features that this bag has to offer, so go ahead and check out that video. A sneak peek here of the inside. There is a divider zipper pocket, as well as an additional pocket in the lining and 2 slip pockets too. I think you're going to love making this bag, so go ahead and continue watching so you can sew yours. Alright, I've gone ahead and cut out all of my pattern pieces, so let me show you what makes up the Sweetheart Shoulder Bag. We're going to begin by talking about the exterior of the bag. This top portion right here is called the top overlay piece. You're going to need 4 of them, one to the left and the right, and then as well as the back here. And you can see that there are 2 rows of contrasting stitching along the center here, as well as along this bottom curve. That's going to give this bag some visual interest right there. Now, if you're not comfortable with your top stitching skills, you can certainly go ahead and do some coordinating thread instead of the contrasting thread. So you'll need 4 pieces of your top overlay. So this is basically what it's going to be, is you'll be joining this down the center here. So 4 of those. So I've got them here. Behind that top overlay piece, we have a backing. That's going to create a nice sewn finished edge along this bottom curve. That can be done in the vinyl that you're using for your actual top overlay piece, or you can go ahead and do some quilt cotton instead. Especially if you're working on a domestic machine, I would recommend sticking with your quilt cotton. Now, all of my quilt cotton pieces do have woven interfacing on the back. I like to use Sew Fuse, but you can also do some SF101 if you want. So we got 2 of those. We have 2 of our exterior panels. Again, they do have the woven interfacing on the back side. You're going to need 2 stabilizer pieces for your bag. I am going with some fusible foam for this particular bag. In the past ones that I've made, this one and 2 other ones, I've gone ahead and made it with some Decovil Light. You can see it still has some flexibility and stability for using some Decovil Light. But I want to see what it looks like with the fusible foam on this particular one. I've had some testers do it in fusible foam and they really like the outcome, so we're going to try that today. Let's talk about the lining. So inside the lining here, we have a top lining top piece here, and I like to do that in the same fabric that I'm doing my top overlay piece. I think it gives a nice professional finish and look to it whenever that fabric is continued on inside the lining. So I have written it to have 2 pieces for our lining. So this is our lining top pieces, and then we have our lining panels right here, 2 of those. And we have our zipper pocket and our zipper facing. So here's our zipper facing. I don't put woven interfacing on my zipper facings, but you can certainly do that if you want. And then we have our actual zipper pocket pieces right here. So 2 of those. And this is a rather large zipper pocket, and the reason being is that we're going to birth this bag through this zipper pocket right here. It's much easier to do that on this bag rather than trying to birth it with this divider zipper pocket in the way as well. So that's why it is so large. On the opposite side of the lining, you're going to have a slip pocket. So that's the slip pocket piece right here. So just one of those. And I've divided this up into 2 portions. You can certainly go ahead and do that into 3, or you can create also like a 1-inch wide little slip pocket, so you can go ahead and drop a pen in there as well. Here is our lining divider zipper pocket that's in the lining. So we're going to have the 2 exterior pieces. I've got my woven interfacing on those, and then I also have added some Sew Fuse Plus. You could also do some fusible fleece, or you can also try some Decovil Light as well. That's just going to give that divider zipper pocket a little bit more stability. And I have 2 for the inside of the divider zipper pocket, so that's the lining of the pocket. So here's the exterior of the divider zipper pocket, and then the lining. And I have done this bag with all of the same fabric there. And then just to mention, I did not add any woven interfacing on this. It's a duck cotton. It's got a little bit more stability than your standard quilt cotton, so I've opted just not do any woven interfacing on these. But if you're using quilt cotton, go ahead and do some woven interfacing. I have 2 of my zipper end pieces. Those are going to go on either side of the divider zipper pocket here. That way the zipper tape is not going into the side seams. And lastly, I have my handles. So you can see here, I've gone ahead and made this bag with your standard, you know, the 4-inch wide handle here. But I've been trying out a new method and doing this 2-tone strap. So I'm going to make that off camera. I'm still testing it out. I have made a couple of these straps already, and I've been liking the way that they look. And the reason that I've kind of switched it up a little bit is this Marine Ottertex vinyl that I've been working with. I've been getting skipped stitches lately whenever I'm sewing through those 4 layers to do my top stitching on my handles. And so I think this is a great alternative because it's not going to be as bulky, and my machine has no problem getting through this. Whereas with this version, I've been getting these skip stitches. So if this is something that you're interested in and you'd like me to show you how to do on a future video and or write the instructions in my next pattern, just let me know in the comments, and I can certainly go ahead and do that because I think it is a great alternative, especially if you're working on a domestic machine or a semi-industrial like I do. I've got the Juki, I think you call it a Juki Haruka. It's the TL18QVP. So that's the machine that I'm working on. And like I said, it's not getting through the Marine Ottertex vinyl like I'd like it to. I've been playing with the settings, and it's just not working on those 4 layers. It skips stitches every once in a while. So that is all the pieces that make up the Sweetheart shoulder bag. Let's go ahead and get right on into sewing it. All right, I also forgot to tell you about the hardware that we're going to need. You're going to need number 3 or number 5 zipper tape. That's going to be for your zipper pocket as well as your divider zipper pocket. The exact amounts of what is needed is written into the pattern as well as the product listing at sewyours.com, so you can check that out. You'll need 2 zipper pulls, and you'll need a magnetic snap as well. And then you're going to need your rivets. Rivets are required for this particular bag as they are functional instead of just being decorative. You can do 2 rivets underneath each handle like I've done here, or if you want, you can go ahead and just do 1 rivet underneath each of the handles. And the reason why it's functional is it's actually holding the lining down. If I didn't have any rivets here, when I'm holding the handles, my lining would be trying to pull back up out of the bag because of the way that this has been constructed. So that is all of the hardware that you do need for the Sweetheart shoulder bag. So it's really minimal. So I think you're going to enjoy making this one. It does come together rather quickly. So it's a great bag, and it has a lot of visual interest to it with having this top overlay piece and the decorative stitching. So I hope you enjoy making it as much as I do. So let's go ahead and do it right now. Step 1 is to make your straps. I've already gone ahead and done that. If you need instructions and a visual on how to go ahead and do these straps that are written into the pattern, go ahead and check out my Martini video as I have instructions there for that. But this is the 2-tone straps and what they look like. Now you want to go ahead and grab all 4 of your top overlay pieces, which I have right here. What I've done is I've placed those right sides together. I've clipped it into place, and for this one I've already sewn it at a 1/4 inch seam allowance. I've chosen to do the navy blue thread to match my navy blue vinyl for this particular step, because whenever I open up these seams, sometimes you might see some pooling, and I don't want to see the contrasting thread, which I'm going to be using, which is the red here, peeking through this center seam. I don't want to have that at all. So just to be sure, I like to use the coordinating thread for this particular step, and then I'll switch out my thread in just a moment. Press my seams here open. You can do that with an iron when you're working with cotton, or when you're working with vinyl, you're going to go ahead and just finger press that. And then you're going to come in and top stitch at an 1/8 inch seam allowance along both the left and the right side of the seam that you've created. In your coordinating thread, if you're not comfortable with your top stitching skills, or in your contrasting thread, if you want to have that extra visual interest like I did in my bag and like I'm going to be doing here. For anybody who's interested, I am using Text 45 and Text 70 thread from siaswagbags.com. The reason that I'm using both of these is because my Juki does not handle the Text 70 in the bobbin, so therefore the Text 45 works perfectly in the bobbin, but then I like the look of the Text 70 for top stitching because it is a little bit of a thicker weighted thread. So the Text 70 is right here on the strap, whereas the 45 is right here. This is going to be my underside of my strap. So let me go take this over to the machine, stitch this at 1/4 inch seam allowance, do the top stitching at 1/8 inch, and I'll be right back. Alright, I've gone ahead now and done the top stitching. Let me show you what that looks like here. So I've gone ahead and done the top stitching here when I pressed my seams open. And then you want to take your top overlay backing piece, clip it to that bottom curved edge like I've done here. And then we're going to go ahead and stitch along this curved edge at 1/8 inch seam allowance like I've done right here. I did switch back over to my coordinating thread for this particular step. And then once you do that, you're going to want to go ahead and take your scissors or your thread nippers and come in where all the curves are. And within the curve allowance, or within the seam allowance, you're going to go ahead and clip notches every about 1/4 inch here. And this is going to help ease the these corners here when we turn it right side out, which I'm going to continue to do off camera here, and it won't have any puckering. So let me just show you what we're looking like here. So you're going to turn it right side out. I find that when I'm working with the vinyl, it's very rigid, so I like to come in with my clips to get everything clipped into place and hold it in securely while I come in and do my top stitching. So I'm going to come in and clip this all into place. You can kind of see where I'm going with this. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do my first row of top stitching at 1/4 inch seam allowance along this bottom curved edge with my contrasting thread. So let me go ahead and finish what I've done on this one, on this piece, do my top stitching here, and I'll show you what it looks like. I'm beginning my top stitching now at 1/4 inch seam allowance. I've got my stitch length to a 5mm, and I've also got my little seam guide here, my magnetic seam guide, at the 1/4 inch mark. This definitely helps me to keep my seam nice and consistent and even. So take your time when you're doing your top stitching, since you are doing the contrasting. If your machine allows you to reduce the speed, I highly recommend that you do that. As I work around the piece, I make sure that I'm tucking the backing underneath so it's not puckering out at all. So let me go ahead and get this finished up, and I'll show you the end result of both of these pieces. Alright, this is the second time of me recording this because I accidentally deleted the last clip. So I have gone ahead and already secured my top overlay piece to my exterior panel, as you can see right here. And I'll show you how I did that. I ended up doing it for both pieces, but when I realized I deleted the clip, I unpicked my stitches because I thought it was very important that you guys see this. Just going to go with it. I normally don't like having the holes in the vinyl, and I would recut this whole entire piece, but I want to go ahead and just show you on this one. You'll see here there's a little bit of extra overhang. Just trim that even on your sides. And what I've done is I've also trimmed away the extra bulk on pattern piece C3, so it's kind of even here with my stitching. This is an optional step, not required, but you can certainly do it like I have done on here. Then I went ahead and took my ruler here, and I measured down 2 inches from the top straight edge, and I drew a line with my pen. The next step is to go ahead and place the overlay on top of your exterior panel. Now, you're not going to be placing it even with the top edge like this. That'll be the incorrect way, so do not do that. what we're going to do is we're going to place a row of double-sided tape along the top edge. This is going to help us hold it into place. And what we're going to do is we're going to use this line that we drew and match up this line with the exterior here. So let me do this. I'm doing it upside down for you. Let me see if I can get it. Yeah, I'll turn it around and do it. Okay. And I just start placing it right on that line that I drew. So again, you can see where we're at here, matching up that edge. I lightly just kind of place it at first, and then I'll come back when it looks good and push the tape in place. And now we're going to go ahead and take it back to the sewing machine with our contrasting thread if you're doing that. And we're going to go ahead and do another row of top stitching at 1/8 of an inch from this bottom curve. And it's basically in between that 1/4 of an inch seam allowance that we just did. So at 1/8 of an inch, you're going to go ahead and sew all around here. Okay, now I've got that stitched into place. Another optional step that you can do if you'd like, I'm not going to do it on this one, but you could peel back the exterior panel here at the top where the double-sided tape is, and you could, if you want, cut away the extra bulk here. Another thing that you could do is before you go ahead and do this curve top stitching, you could also place your fusible foam or any stabilizer that you're using in place and then come in and do that row of top stitching. That'll help to also secure this into place, but it's personal preference and what you want to do. As you can see here, I'm going to go ahead and do it now. So I'm going to iron my foam onto both of my exterior pieces. Once I do that, I'm going to come in and I'm going to place these right sides together and clip them into place. And I'm going to take this to the sewing machine at a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance down the left and the right side. I'm going to sew, as well as this bottom straight edge. Do not sew these corners at all. Alright, I've got this sewn together. Now it's time for us to go ahead and box our corners. In order to do that, I reach my hand inside of the exterior and kind of help me to get it to match up. I have trouble doing this from a distance because I can't see what I'm doing. Let's see here. But basically what you want to do is you're going to go ahead and match them up right here. Now, I haven't done this yet, but I'm going to trim my seam allowances down to about a 1/4 of an inch here. That'll also help to reduce the bulk. So let me get that done real quick. And I'm going to do it on this side as well. I usually leave the extra at the top because it helps to lay my seams flat during the final construction. Because this has such a taper to it, it can be a little bit tricky to box the corners on this particular bag. It's going to want to kind of point out. Let me get this done over here for a sec. So you can see here that I have got it lined up. I've met up these center seams here. So it's the bottom center seam and the, I don't know why I'm saying center, but the bottom seam and the side seam here. You're going to go ahead and match those together and then pull everything nice and flat, clip it into place. And since there is that taper there, there's going to be a little bit of a pointiness here. You're not going to sew right along the edge. You're going to do a nice straight, about a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance across here. So come in from this edge at 3/8 of an inch and make sure you go straight across. So I'm going to do that for the other side as well, and then I'll turn it right side out so you can take a look at it, and we'll start working on the lining. Alright, my corners are boxed and sewn together. Now I'm going to trim that down on both sides. And let's turn it right side out. Alright, this is what she is looking like. I really do like the combination of this vinyl and this fabric as well. I'm going to go ahead and get this over to the iron and press it a little bit on the cotton areas, and then we'll move into the lining. Now you want to go ahead and grab your 11.5 inch zipper or zipper tape. Make sure it is cut exactly to an 11.5 inches. And then you're going to go in and take your zipper end and fold it in half, meeting the short raw edges. Press it with an iron, open it back up, and then you're going to fold in those short raw edges to meet that center fold. Press it again, and then you're going to fold it again on that original fold like this. Once you've done that, go ahead and add it to the end of your zipper tape right here. Sew this with a 1/8 of an inch seam allowance like I've done on this side, and then we're going to trim down the excess to make sure that it's even with your zipper tape, just like this. So I'm going to go ahead and get that sewn on, and then the next step that I'm going to do once I have this attached is I'm going to go ahead and find my center on the divider zipper pocket here on the top straight edge, and to find the center of my zipper, and I'm going to lay this right sides down with the zipper pull to the left and sew this on with a base stitch of 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Alright, now I have my zipper secured to the exterior of the divider zipper pocket here. Now you want to grab your lining zipper pocket. So I've got that here. You want to place right sides together over top of the zipper tape and clip it into place. Now we're going to come in with a 1/4 of an inch seam allowance and sew down the side from end to end. Alright, now that's sewn together. We're going to go ahead and turn this right side out. So I've got my exterior divider zipper pocket. Here's my lining, and then I've got my zipper. Now you're going to go ahead and grab your other divider zipper pocket, the exterior, right here. And we're going to go ahead and place this right sides together with this side of the zipper tape. And we're going to go ahead and again find our centers to make sure that that's centered on there. Base stitch this with 1/8 of an inch seam allowance, just like we did previously. Once we've done that, we're going to come in and flip it back, and then you're going to grab your lining divider zipper pocket, which is right here. You're going to place this right sides together, and you're going to sew this on with a 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. Alright, all of the exterior and divider zipper pocket lining pieces have been sewn together. From here, what we want to do is you're going to press it with an iron, which I've already done, and come in with 1/8 of an inch seam allowance down both the sides of the zipper tape here to top stitch. Then take this over to your sewing machine after that, and you're going to clip everything in place, matching up your side and your bottom seams. And you're going to go ahead and base stitch with 1/8 of an inch seam allowance down the left, the right side, as well as the bottom. Again, making sure that everything matches up evenly when you do that. I've gone ahead and base stitched the bottom and the sides, leaving the corners open here. And we're going to go ahead and just set this divider zipper pocket aside. Grab one of your lining panels and your zipper facing. Go ahead and place the zipper facing this top edge right here, 1 inch down from the top edge of your lining panel like I've done, making sure that it is centered on your lining panel. Then you're going to go ahead and sew along that inner rectangle, which is represented on your zipper facing pattern piece. The next step will be to go ahead and cut down the center of that inner rectangle, making sure that you're not cutting all the way to the edge. You're going to stop about 1/2 of an inch from each edge. And then you're going to take your scissors and you're going to be very careful. You're going to go in at an angle towards those corners without clipping your threads, which I'll go ahead and do in a moment. And then once you do that, you're going to go ahead and take your zipper facing, pull it through the hole that you just went ahead and cut, and press it with an iron. And I will show you what that's looking like once I get that step done. Alright, I have pulled my zipper facing through to the other side of my lining. Set that aside for a moment. Grab one of your zipper pocket lining pieces and your 11-inch zipper. Place the 11-inch zipper centered over the top long raw edge here of your pocket. Sew that with 1/8 of an inch seam allowance, which I've already done. The next thing that we want to do is we're going to flip this over, and you can see here that I see the entire right side of my zipper. What I want to do is I'm going to slide the right side, this is the right side of my other pocket lining, underneath, just like this. We're going to center this, and I'm going to go ahead and base stitch this again with 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. So that way I've got my right sides of my lining together, and I can see the entire zipper. All right, I have gone ahead and got that sewn together. So again, I can see my entire front of my zipper. This is the right sides right in here. And you can see that I got the wrong side of the zipper showing when I'm showing you that. All right, so now what I've done is I've added some double-sided tape to both sides of my zipper. And I want to get my lining and place the zipper pocket, the zipper facing, I should say the zipper centered, which I'll do here off camera to make sure it's more accurate, showing right here through the center of my zipper window. Also making sure my zipper pull is over here and to the right side. And I'm going to come in and sew along just this top edge at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. All right, this top edge is now sewn into place. The next thing that you want to do is you're going to go ahead and flip this over, and you want to flip both of your pocket lining pieces out of the way completely, making sure that you kind of tug on this a little bit to make sure it's out of the way, and then do the other side as well. And then from here, you're going to go ahead and flip it back, and you're going to go ahead and top stitch just this bottom edge now at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. My bottom edge is now stitched shut. What I did after that is I went ahead and made sure to flip this back down into place. And then I closed up the sides of my zipper pocket here, the short sides on both edges. From here, what you want to do is you want to go ahead, you'll notice that the bottom edges here are just slightly off and uneven. We need to go ahead and trim this excess so it's even. Okay, now that that is even, what you're going to do is take this over to the iron, and you're going to fold up about 1/4 of an inch both edges of the bottom here of your pocket. So I'm going to go ahead and fold this one, and I'm going to do the same for the other one. You're folding it backwards so that the raw edges are in this direction here and then on this direction. So I'm going to go ahead and press that up, and then what I'll do after that is I'll take this over to the sewing machine, and I'm going to flip my lining out of the way. And I'm just going to go ahead and stitch down the side of this pocket to sew it into place. So you are going to be stitching that bottom folded edge up, and then we'll repeat for the other side as well. I've stitched up the sides of my pocket closed, and you just want to go ahead and trim off any excess here. And then I also like to trim up the excess on the top. All right, so this is now complete. We'll set this aside. Grab your other lining panel and your slip pocket piece. I have folded my slip pocket piece in half, meeting the long raw edges right sides together. I've sewn down the left side, the bottom edge. I left about a 3 to 4 inch opening at the bottom so I can turn this, and then I sewed down the right and the bottom. I've trimmed my corners up so that I can have a sharper corner when I turn this right side out. So I'm going to turn this right side out, and I'm going to press it with my iron, and we'll place this then on top of our lining. I've turned my pocket right side out, pressed it with an iron, and then on this folded edge, I've gone ahead and top stitched this at 1/8 of an inch. I also took my ruler, found my center on my slip pocket. It's hard to see here, but I did go ahead with my removable marking pen and draw a center line here. This will divide my pocket equally into 2 parts. You could certainly go ahead, like I said before, and do 3 sections. You could do a section here, then do a 1 inch gap, and then a smaller pocket over here so that you could slip a pen right here down the center. So that's another option for you. But for me right now, I'm just going to go ahead and divide it down the center. I have found the center of my lining, which I have my ruler placed right here, and I'm going to be placing the slip pocket 2 inches down from this top raw edge. So right here. I am going to go ahead and take this over to the sewing machine now. I'm going to sew with a 1/8 of an inch seam allowance down the bottom, or excuse me, the side, the bottom, and up the other side. And then I'm also going to go ahead and sew down the center line that I've drawn. Here is my slip pocket all complete. I've got 2 equal portions. I did choose to go ahead last minute and just do a double row of stitching down the center here. And then now I also have my zipper pocket lining piece ready here. What we need to do is we're going to be grabbing our 2 lining top pieces, and we're going to begin by attaching our handles and the lining top to one of our panels here. Doesn't matter which one you start with. So I've got one of my handles, my lining top here, and my lining bottom or my lining panel. You're going to be placing your handles 4 inches over from the center point here. And what you want to do is you want to have the right side of your handles, so mine are directional here. So my right side of my handle is going to be facing with the right side of my lining. I'm going to measure over 4 inches, and I'm going to put that first edge at the 4-inch mark right here. Clip it into place, and make sure your handle's not twisted. Come over 4 inches, and place the other edge, and it's going to be this inner edge of your handle. Now take this to the sewing machine, and you're going to go ahead and base stitch this in place with 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Then you're going to come in with your lining top piece, and you're going to match up the longer of the edges here with this top edge. So right sides together, you're going to place this over top. Sew this with 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. All right, I went ahead and sewed that into place, but I realized I made an error. I indicated to you to go ahead, if you're doing a directional handle, to place it with the print side, right side down. When I did that, I realized that I did it incorrectly. It actually should be facing up. This is the first time that I've done the directional handles on this pattern, so make sure they're facing up just like mine is shown right here. And what you do after that, I've done it on this one, is you're going to go ahead and top stitch on the cotton side here, so this lower edge at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. And there is the seam pressed to the bottom. All right, so I'm going to do the same thing for this one. I'm going to go ahead and top stitch this edge right here at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Now it's time to place our magnetic snap 1 inch up from the bottom edge here, just like I've done. So I'm going to show you on this one. So you just take your ruler. I found my center by clipping a notch, by folding it into half and clipping the notch to find my center. Get your ruler and then place it right along the bottom edge here that's been sewn and make a dot 1 inch up. Then you're going to take your washer from your magnetic snap, place it centered where that dot was, and hold it into place and make 2 little marks here for where the prongs are going to go. Then you're going to take your scissors or your seam ripper or a rotary, or excuse me, a blade knife here like I have for my Cricut, and cut your slits for your prongs. Insert your magnetic snap. And then I have already taken some Decava Light and made some slits for the prongs right here. Add your washer. Bend out your prongs. You can bend them outwards or inwards, it's up to you. I usually take it and flip it and kind of give it a press. All right, and then I like to add some duct tape to also protect the exterior whenever that rubs together. And so that's how you add magnetic snaps. Now it's going to be time for us to go ahead and put all of our lining pieces together. So you're going to need to grab your divider zipper pocket that we prepared earlier. And we're going to begin by working with the lining that has the zipper pocket in it. Take your divider zipper pocket, making sure your zipper pull is here to the left. You're going to need to get some quilting clips. And what we need to do is we're going to be matching up the edge of the divider zipper pocket with the edge here of our lining. And we start by matching up the bottom corner. Okay. Now we'll take this over to the sewing machine and we're going to base stitch this with 1/8 of an inch seam allowance down this side. Alright, now this has been sewn together. The next step is to grab the other piece of your lining with the slip pocket here. And we're going to go ahead and do the same thing. We're going to match up the bottom corners here, clip it into place, and now we're going to go ahead and begin sewing. Let me get this clipped and then I'll tell you about the seam allowance here. Oh, and then another thing that you want to make sure you do is make sure that those side seams are matched up. So that's the most important part here, getting those lined up. And then if we need to tweak here, we will. You know, everything's lining up nicely. All right, so when we're doing our seam allowance, we're gonna slightly change this because we want the lining to fit a little bit more snug inside the exterior. So we're gonna begin by stitching at the 3/8 of an inch seam allowance down the top, about 2 inches. And then we're slowly gonna taper our seam allowance in to about 5/8 of an inch when we get here to the bottom. All right, I have the one side now sewn together. This is what it's looking like. Now, as you can see here, our divider zipper pocket is shorter than our lining piece. What we need to do is we need to kind of bring it over to the side, and just like we did earlier, we're gonna go ahead and clip it into place, matching at the bottom corners here, and base stitch that at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance, then bring over your other lining piece, match up that bottom corner, and just like we did on this side, you're gonna start off at 3/8 of an inch, gradually increase it to 5/8 of an inch. I've got both of my side seams now sewn together. Now we need to go ahead and close up our bottom. You're gonna need to tuck your handles out of the way. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and just match all of these edges together. So you'll see here, as this is lying here, it looks like your divider zipper pocket here is shorter. It is shorter, but that's intentional. So you're just gonna work with it and get everything to match up. So you can certainly go ahead and base stitch this one side in place if you want first, and then repeat, or you can go ahead and just match everything up like I'm doing right here. So I've got all 3 of these corners. So you can see here that if we were to box this, or you can just kind of see from the side, that the divider zipper pocket here is taut, but these are really bulky, loose and baggy here. So that's the way you want it to be. So you come in and you're going to clip it, and you're just going to continue on down, matching everything up. And then it should end up being that all of your edges here on the other end are the same. So come in here now with a 5/8 of an inch seam allowance and sew along this bottom edge. Okay, I have now trimmed down my seam allowances on the bottom and the sides to about 1/4 of an inch. The next step is going to be opening your divider zipper pocket here in the center, which I've already done. Put your hand in there and kind of work with it to kind of get everything to lay flat. You can barely see my finger in there. It's barely enough room for a pen, but you're basically going to put your finger in there and kind of pinch the seams so that they're matching here in the center. And then you're going to go ahead and clip on both of these sides. And now we're going to go ahead and sew with a 5/8 of a seam allowance straight across this bottom, this corner here. Again, you're going to have a little bit of a taper because of the way the bag is tapered right here. So don't sew 5/8 of an inch from the raw edge. Do 5/8 of an inch from where you start to 5/8 of an inch over here. So there'll be a straight line here, but this will be a little bit tapered. All right, I've got my corners boxed. It's time to go ahead and trim down that seam allowance again to about 1/4 of an inch. All right, so our lining is now complete. So you can see what it's looking like here. All right, so now it's time to go ahead and insert the exterior inside of our lining. And it's very important that you're placing it inside the lining on the side that has the zipper pocket. So you can see this one has the zipper pocket, and it's going to be a little bit of a work to try to cram it into this smaller space, but we need to put it on this side because we're going to be turning it through that zipper pocket. We also want to go ahead and open up our zipper pocket so that way we can have access to it when it's time to turn it. And at this point, I'm just going to remove these clips that are holding that edge up. So I'm going to go ahead now and insert the lining into here. I'll do this off camera because it's hard to reach across and do it, but I'm going to put it in here, and then I'll get it all pinned into place along the top, and we'll go ahead and sew that. All right, here is the lining inserted inside of the, I should say the exterior inserted inside the lining. As you can see, it's really bunched up in here. because we're putting it on that one side. My stabilizer wasn't secured nicely to the vinyl here, but it is secured in the bottom, so it won't be any problem once I turn this. I started by clipping the sides and matching those up. Then I went ahead and matched up my centers, and then I continued to clip all around the edges here. So now I'm just going to take it to the sewing machine and stitch with a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance along the top edge right here. Then I'm going to turn the bag right side out. Alright, I quickly wanted to show you what I have as my setup. This is my makeshift cylinder arm that I do. I've shown this in past videos, but wanted to share it again in case you didn't see those videos. I take my sewing machine and I elevate it on top of a box and have it kind of balance on the edge here so that the end of my machine is hanging over the edge. This allows me to go ahead and position the bag so I can go ahead and sew right around the perimeter of it. It's much easier than doing it the alternative method where the bag would basically be facing upwards here while I'm trying to sew, and I don't like doing it that way. So definitely recommend trying this method out to see if you like it. Now that I've got it sewn, I've gone ahead and trimmed my seam allowance down to about 1/4 of an inch. We're going to reach through this pocket that we've left open, and we're going to pull the bag right side out. So I'm going to go ahead and continue to do that here. Might do this off camera. Let's see if I can get it. Yeah, I'm going to need to do this one off camera because I need to have it closer to me. So I'm going to pull it through the opening and press it with the iron and show you the result. Here is my sweetheart turned right side out. I've clipped along the top edge, tucking those handles down inside so that way when I top stitch they're out of the way. So I'm going to get that done right now, and I'm switching back to my contrasting thread. Alright, here is my sweetheart with the top stitching done here. The next step that we need to do on the machine is we're going to come in, and where we had that opening in the zipper pocket, we need to close that up. So you're going to go ahead and come in, pull that out. You can clip it into place if you want, and just sew across that bottom edge there with an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance, and then tuck it back inside. After that, we need to insert our rivets. I'm going to show you how to do that. We'll talk about it, and then I'll do this off camera. But what we want to do when we're working with the rivets and the handles is you want to go ahead on the inside here and make sure that the handle is straight and taut, but don't pull up on this at all. You want to have it nice and flush and have this straight, and I kind of hold it into place, and I can visually see where my handle is, and then I'm going to visualize that I need to place 1 to 2 rivets underneath my handle. Now when I'm doing this, I found that about 3/4 of an inch works well, so I'll take my ruler and I'll find 3/4 of an inch from this top edge right here. I'll place a dot, making sure that it's centered here. And then I'll go ahead and do another dot 3/4 of an inch from that one. And that's where I'll place my 2 rivets. And again, making sure it's important that you're not pulling up and tugging on the inside here. You want that nice and flush, and you want your handle to be nice and straight. So I'll go ahead and get my pocket lining closed up. I'll add 2 rivets underneath each of these handles, and then I'll come back to show you the finished result. Alright, here is my completed sweetheart shoulder bag. I like how she came out. I also liked the 2-tone straps. Here is my lining. I hope you enjoyed following along with me and making your sweetheart shoulder bag. Please do stop by my Facebook group to share pictures of your completed sweetheart. I'd love to see what you make. I'll also go ahead and leave in the description box below all the links to the tools and hardware that I have used in this video, so you can go ahead and check those out. If you have any questions, also go ahead and shoot me an email or post the question in the Facebook group, and we're happy to go ahead and help you out. Well, now that I've sewn mine, it's time to sew yours.